So I might get a little controversial here. A runner is what you do, not who you are. That if a runner is who you are, that can be a very, very good thing.
Without further ado, I just want to be able to introduce this coach who has done some pretty amazing things. He finished second in Illinois State cross country championship in 2021, and then also he's run collegiately at Brown University. He has a PR of a mile of about 4:28. I just want to say thank you so much, Coach Scott, for being on the Ándale Run Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's great. And so, real quick, not many people may not know about you, but one of the things, because, of course, we like to talk about running and also life, but mostly focus on running. Could you, Coach, just tell us, because you have been a distance runner, maybe just tell us a little bit of your journey. How did you get started? Was it a family member? How did you get started in running?
Sure, yeah, definitely no family member. I come from a very slow family. My dad was extremely overweight when I started running, and my mom was a softball player whose biggest struggle was to get to first base. So there was zero running in my family at all.
Okay.
The way I got started was I've always loved sports. I've always been very into sports. But I was not only small, I'm still small, but I was very underdeveloped too. I was, when I was in, a seventh grader or so, I was still probably 4'2" and like 60 pounds or whatever. So I never made any sport that I ever tried out for, whether a club team, a school team, whatever. So by the time I got to seventh grade, I was like, well, to heck with that. Like, let's go out for a sport that doesn't have cuts. And I joined seventh grade track.
Okay.
And that got me on the journey. Seventh grade spring is when I started, but I didn't actually really buy in. It was just like a thing to do until my sophomore year of high school started. All freshman year, I was kind of a bum. I did it, but like I wasn't, it was like, way down my priority list. But sophomore year, I decided let's really go for this thing. Let's see what I can do. I had some amazing coaches and older teammates that really got that started in me. It's the culture at Deerfield is very strong, and it goes back super far. It predates my time. I went to Deerfield, by the way. I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
It predates my time there. The culture that I help kind of build and maintain these days is one that I found myself in as a very young, impressionable person. And that got my career started. And I really got obsessed. And I have an obsessive personality. When I like something, I go all in on it. The rest of my family, my wife particularly, thinks that's, I go way overboard on things. But that's just my personality. And I did so on starting the summer going into my sophomore year. And I was not a great runner. When I started high school, I ran a mile in the mid sevens.
Okay.
And, by the time the end of freshman year happened, I ran a 5:53, right? So this is like a 5:53 miler, starting to really buy in as a sophomore. And ultimately, I ran 4:29 in high school. So the next 3 years were really big. I ran 14:45 on the cross country course. So I really improved. A lot of that was the dedication that I really put in. I made this my top priority. I'm talking top priority. I put it over school. I put it over family. I literally stayed home from family vacations because I didn't want to miss practice.
Wow.
I made it my top life priority. I'm very privileged to be able to do that, but I did. And so I improved a ton, and I saw everything the sport could unlock for you. It was more than just winning medals and trophies and stuff. It was self-confidence, an identity. It just became who I was. It got me a lot of friends, the people that I was, training with every day. We built bonds that were stronger than any friendship I ever had. So it just got me a lot. And then it got me into school. It got me into college. I went to Brown University. I'm not an Ivy League caliber, person. I was not a straight A student. I'm a smart person, but I'm not brilliant. So, I got in because I ran fast enough. People try to knock, hey, you weren't really Ivy League proudly. Well, it's I worked hard. I worked just as hard as all the people who got in academically. I just worked hard at something else.
Right.
But it unlocked all that stuff for me, and so I saw the magic of the sport. And how it really unlocks things in life. It gives you a mentality that I don't think you get from many other places. That applies to the rest of your life. It creates a mental toughness.
Right.
Baseline mental toughness as a human being that I don't think you get a lot of places. So that's really how I got into running, got started. And as I mentioned, it was my top priority in life. I never forgot that. So like
Mm,
my entire college career, I always had like Deerfield in my mind. I was always like every winter break, spring break, summer break, I came back to Deerfield and I trained and like met the kids, like the kids who were still on the team. I kind of tried to
right.
mentor some of them. And how Deerfield performed still mattered so much to me. And
Mm,
so when so I went to college. I lived in Boston for 2 years after college, but then I moved back to Deerfield and spent an entire year just like being with the team in an unofficial capacity. I just went to all the meets and I got to
ah,
know all the kids. And then my coach, who coached me and was still coaching, was going to retire, and the parents on the team kind of gave me the elbow of like, why don't you take over? And I was like, no,
mm.
no. And ultimately I was convinced to do it. And there was one year where I got passed over, but became an assistant coach. But then the guy who got hired to be the head coach left after 1 year, and I took over as head coach at the ripe age of 25.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot in there. One thing I do want to kind of touch on a little bit is, so your sophomore year, something just triggered. So what triggered you to be like, you know what, this is the year I'm gonna just go all in. You of course you alluded to your freshman year not doing a lot, but what triggered that for you your sophomore
Yeah.
year?
So you asked that, and I can pinpoint it to one specific event, and I'm sure there was a lot that supported it, but one specific event made me make that actual decision. It's what I like to call, like on our team, we call these key experiences. This was a huge key experience for me. I had a tempo run during a set of summer practice sophomore year where I literally ran 4 miles in 32 minutes, like, and I was trying my hardest. Reason being is I didn't prepare for it, right? I
Mm,
can't remember exactly what I did, but I'm sure I drank a lot of soda, stayed up late, like whatever. But waking up at 6:30 in the morning and running 4 miles hard, crushed me.
mm,
I did terribly. People who were actually slower than me beat me by a lot. It was just like an embarrassing day.
yeah.
Um, and I still remember that my coach was disappointed. And like, I don't
Mm,
remember if he told me he was disappointed or if I could just read it in his face, but some way that got really communicated to me in an effective way. And I was like, I don't want that again. And I
mm,
was like, let's change that. I can identify the things I did wrong because like we learned that. Like I had an entire freshman year to learn, what you need to do to prepare to have the best practice you can. And like I kind of, I don't know if I can say it, but half-assed it.
yeah.
um, and tried to get away with it, and I couldn't. So at that point
Mm,
on, I was like, let's just swear off this stuff. And as I told you, I have an obsessive personality, so like that was the last soda I ever drank. Like I still haven't drank a soda since.
really?
And like I have just, at that point, I prioritized running first over eating the food I wanted when I wanted, about staying up late doing whatever it is I wanted to do. Like if it conflicted
Yeah.
with the ability to even increase the quality of practice by 1%, I didn't do it. And so
Sure.
that one moment, that one practice that was embarrassing to me, I got the switch to flip.
You've worked with a lot of students over the course of time. So what have you seen be most effective to be able, you see something in a student and you're like, yeah, this student has something, but they're not giving it their all. And so how do you approach that? Like how to turn that key in that student?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest like topics. I don't think I'm great at it. But what I do like, and I see this all the time because almost everybody who joins the Deerfield cross country team is not making it the highest priority in their life yet. Some of them
Mm,
elevate it to that.
sure.
But to almost everybody needs to be pushed in that way. It's a long process. I don't think there's anything I can say specifically to do that. And I'm not a very vocal coach. I don't raise my voice very much. Like I have a hard time expressing disappointment, like because I'm just non-confrontational.
Mm,
Um, so like really, it's just like as I mentioned, how I can kind of read the disappointment in my coach without him really having to say it. I kind of try to do that. So it's like I'm not
mm,
if someone like really fails at a practice because they messed something up and it was totally their fault. I'm not gonna go to them and be like that was bad. I don't
yeah.
think I'm gonna say the words that was bad, but I will start to give them less attention, I think, or like kind
Mm,
of praise someone else in front of them, or those kind of like little cues.
sure.
Um, to me, that over the course of a couple weeks, months, or years, I at least hope gets them to want to impress me or
Mm.
like want me to be happy with them and to praise them the way I may have praised someone else. So I kind of don't coach at like I'm not a yell and a screamer. I'm not a scolder. I'm kind of like the nice guy who, when I'm not being nice to you, there's something wrong, and they might want to, and they make them want to kind of change that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So yeah. So you basically, like, if your approach to that particular student is different, then you're hoping that that student will pick up on that and be like, "Hey, coach
Yeah.
may be thinking something
Yeah.
different than I am."
It's like I think if you observe me at practice, you can get a very good sense at what I'm hoping for, even if I don't explicitly say it.
Sure.
And I think like they get the hint that they know what they should be doing and whether they're doing it or not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best strategy necessarily, but given my personality, I think it's works the best. A
Yeah.
coach who's got like a loud voice and is like a vocal person, I think could be really effective in this area just by saying a few words. And for me, that's just not natural. So I kind of resort to like, let's set the standard, both myself and with the people who are setting a good standard, and kind of make the in-group the ones who meet the standard, and kind of make the people who don't meet the standard say like, yeah, you're kind of a little bit outside the circle still. Like, you can make your way into the circle, certainly. Here's how you do it. Like they're doing it right now. You can do that too. And kind of get that message across.
Okay. Okay. And so, one of the things that you talked about, and you mentioned the word culture.
Yeah.
And at least from what I understand, it came up a little bit in some things that I researched about you. But I've also heard it from other people, that's something that's really big, for you. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what the culture is like there at Deerfield? And then how have you helped, not only maintain it, but maybe take it a step further. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'll tell you that most of the people who join our program are completely raw. We don't have middle school programs that are super competitive.
Okay.
Half of the freshmen we get are running their first steps with us, and the other half went through these like kind of middle school programs that were, they went running, but they weren't focused on winning really. So we get a lot of raw kids. And it's always been this unbelievable pay it forward, where the mentorship from the seniors, juniors, and sophomores is incredible. I got to experience that when I was a young runner on the team. And it just somehow never stopped. And this was like 2004 when I joined the team. And I can tell you that this culture started like around the turn of the millennium, because Deerfield was terrible throughout the late 80s and 90s. I can't even find anything on the internet about it, because Deerfield's cross-country program was just like bad, with the exception of Adam Wallace, who was a superstar runner. But even with Adam Wallace, the team behind him was terrible. Like you get someone who's going to be an All-American, a D1 All-American, but you can't, finish, beat a single team in your conference. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
But there was a time in like around the turn of the millennium where these kids just decided like we're sick and tired of losing. And they created what we call the DFDC, which stands for the Deerfield Distance Crew, which is the moniker that like honestly on its face doesn't do a whole lot, but it kind of sets the tone that, hey, this is not a normal sports team. This is going to be a sports team that works really hard, that cares how we do, that is good kids, and is going to care about bringing other people into it. And we just hit a special group with those people. And again, these guys are older than me. They came before I was even in high school, and it just snowballed. And 26 years later, there has been no cut in the line there. Like every single class has mentored the younger classes. Like freshmen show up on day one, and you see upperclassmen like go up to them, offer their hand, and say, "Hey, I'm so and so. Glad you're here." And it's something that like nice adults do, but you don't see with teenagers very much.
Right.
And it's just this thing that gets these regular kids, usually bad athletes, failed athletes, kind of like how I was, couldn't make other sports, so like, let's just try running, and turns them into wannabe good athletes, because that's just the dominating culture. And what I love about high school is the freshmen are 25% of the team. The people who know what's going on are 75% of the team. And so the overwhelming majority know what's going on. And the other 25%, as long as they're close together, and I think a lot of cross country teams are this way, but we do not split. We do everything together. We are all team focused. We say that what the worst freshman does impacts our varsity, and what our best varsity runner does impacts our freshmen. And it just allows that to snowball. And it's so powerful. And I'm sure a lot of teams can claim something like this, but it is just like the main force driving what I think was my success in my life. And I've seen it just kind of continue and continue. So it is, I'm unbelievably passionate about it. And it manifests in this way, I believe.
Okay.
I think the proof is that this culture is kind of really, really good and hasn't been disrupted, is Deerfield is either good or very good. Like we haven't had a great team yet in that time. We've trophied in 2A twice. We've gotten second place, and last year we got third place. We haven't won that state title, but we're never worse than good. If we had a win-loss record, we would have 26 straight years of a winning record. And so what that tells me is, like, we can win with anybody.
Yeah.
Right? We can have the work, like it doesn't. We don't need to have the time where we get like a crop of talented runners. We get that sometimes. We had that last year. We had that 4 years ago. But even when we don't get talented runners, we're still good. And it's because we can turn, with this culture, can turn any 7-minute miler, 8-minute miler into a 5-minute miler. And I think that's really special. And more than just, as I mentioned, like, that's the athletic stuff, but the self-confidence, the identity is what's completely tied up in that. And so, I rambled on about this, but I'm unbelievably passionate about the culture of Deerfield cross country that I can't claim credit for. It impacted me. I'm a product of it.
I do wonder, like, so that's been going on for a number of years. So have you had to do anything to make sure that continues, or has that just been a kind of an organic thing for Deerfield?
A little bit of both. I think it's certainly organic because they look forward to doing for the freshmen what they had done to them. Like, I can tell you, like, when practice is over, like, our only seniors are allowed to park at the school. Our seniors pack their cars like clown cars, driving everybody home. It's very, like, it'd be very easy for everyone to call their parents or take the late bus or something like that. But the seniors just like, hey, I was driven home. I'm a senior. Now it is my turn to do it. So that stuff kind of happens organically, which is great. I also think what's amazing and what makes this possible in cross country, and it may not make it possible in other sports, is cross country kids are just, like, generally nice. They're not usually like the coolest kids in the world. They're usually very nice kids. So when they're seniors, they're not, like, super excited about the ability to haze freshmen. They're excited about the ability to bring freshmen into their thing, So that happens organically. Obviously, this is, like, something that's on the forefront of my mind constantly. So I'm always picking opportunities where I see something to kind of push for it. Like, I can tell we have the first practice starting on Monday, and I've already kind of just, like, sent an email to the sophomores through seniors and be like, hey, remember, freshmen are showing up. We're gonna have, like, we've already met a couple freshmen, but most of the freshmen are gonna show up for the first time on Monday. They're gonna be nervous. You may be nervous about looking stupid, like, introducing yourself to them, but guess what? They're way more nervous about looking stupid than you are. Tell them your name, bring them along, like, just a little reminder. That's all I need. It was just an email. And then it happens. Cause it's like, I'm telling you, it's 90% organic. And then the 10% is just me kind of, out. Let's maintain it. And it's kind of just never failed. So I'm lucky that way.
Yeah. No, I mean, you saying that, like, it reminds me, which I'm a big, like, I'm a big advocate for. I hope that, other adults get the opportunity or the chance at helping our teenagers learn leadership things. And that's exactly what your sophomores to seniors, that's what they're exhibiting. That's what they're practicing by doing that very thing, and if they can learn how to be a good leader, strong leader at that age, I can only imagine what they would be like if they continue that trajectory, later on in life. Yeah. So, that's awesome. And so, with, you mentioned already kind of like the identity, right? Like you found identity in running, and everything. And so one of the things that I have often said and I found myself saying often is, is that, running is something you do is not who you are, right? So, how do you go about, like, yes, we want people, we want our students, girl and guy, to be incredible runners, and at the same time recognize that, hey, like there's other parts of you that make up who you are. So how do you find that balance with
Yeah.
your students?
So I might get a little controversial here because I think I watched one of the former Andale Run podcasts. I can't remember which one where that was talked about. I
Hmm.
kind of disagree.
Okay.
And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. But when you say like a runner is what you do, not who you are, I kind
Hmm.
of think that if a runner is who you are, that can be a very, very good thing. Now, I know the point is that like if you're failing at running, you shouldn't feel like you're a failure as a human, and that's very true.
Hmm.
But if running is your life, it is your identity, I think that's like a really positive thing. It like if you can find a passion and prioritize it and really your emotions go, up and down with it, I think that's real powerful. And like that's gonna happen later in life. Like I can tell you, like, I'm not like I run every day, but I don't have any competitive juices for myself anymore. Like how I do in a race, I'll do a local 5K. How I do is not gonna impact my life. I can crash out and be totally fine for the rest of the day. I won't care. But like that passion's like transferred to like my family. I've got a 1.5-year-old son, and like my emotions go up and down with his life, right? Like that's what I'm passionate about now. And so it's like I have that experience. And the thing that made me a good runner, which I think was that running being my identity and it is who I was, is also helping me be a good father because like that's what I care about most in life. Like then that's what I'm gonna focus on all the time. And even when it's bad, like true, I don't think that I'm a bad person when it's going bad, but like then it becomes a problem I care about deeply and I want to fix.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I almost disagree with that in a little bit. And when it comes to running, and when I think about how this works with my athletes, I kind of want them to think of themselves as runners. As who they are throughout their 4 years. Because I think naturally, once their running career ends, whether for 95% of them after 4 years, and for the rest after college or whatever,
Yeah.
um, they'll come to naturally realize that hey, everything I thought was my everything in high school wasn't really my everything, but it was a platform for me to learn how to pursue my everything.
Yeah.
So their next
Yeah.
endeavor, it's like, hey, if I'm at this job and I'm having a hard time, like I can recall these experiences where running was my everything and I got through the hard times, or I cared, so deeply that I did this and this and this that I can now apply to my career, which, I hope people don't make their careers everything. That's a different subject, whatever. But it's something that's important to you. You can recall upon those experiences and it can get you through it. So yeah, that's where I stand on that. I do. So like,
Okay.
I certainly don't want to see runners spiral out personally because they're not having a great time as a runner. But I also think as long as the spiraling out isn't so detrimental, it can be a positive takeaway that you can use later in life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and listening to you, I hear the passion, and and that's good. I mean, I was certainly, I guess, as you were sharing that, something that came to mind was like, um, you're not wanting to dismiss the passion that somebody may have for the sport of running. And I think, with anything you do in life, hopefully there is some passion at whatever it is, you maybe find your purpose, or your family, or academia, whatever
Yeah.
it may be, that there's some sort of passion. And I don't fault anybody for having passion for whatever it is that they're going after. And in this case, we're talking about running, right?
Yeah.
My son is very passionate about it,
Yeah.
and I would just, the only thing I would say is just that, like, as coaches and as parents, if you do have athletes, you know your athlete better than anybody else, and so you should know when or you could know, when it's better to like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit here on that. This is
Mhm.
not the end of the world if you had a bad
Right.
race or whatever the case may be. Although hopefully, like I said, there's people in that student's life that be able to know them well enough to be able to be like, yeah, like go for the passion, or okay, hold on a second,
Yeah.
let's pump the brakes there for a second. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I love to be able to hear other people's different views and everything, and that's how we learn. So, and so with this coming season. Um, are do you or who do you see kind of maybe stepping up in that role, or what have you shared with your guys about the
Yeah.
upcoming season? I know you don't have practice till Monday, but I'm sure maybe there's been communication. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely there is. I've used my contact days, so
Yeah.
we're getting stuff done. So yeah, a very interesting season coming up because I would say agnostic of what the rest of the state is doing. We would say, hey, we got a pretty good team coming back. We do return 3 out of the 7 who were on that state trophy team, and we had a crazy strong JV squad beyond that 7, and Frosh off. So
Yeah.
we feel that this kind of happens all the time, that we reload and retool maybe better than any team ever does. There was the year that we got second place in 2021. We did that with 7 seniors. The
No.
next year we had 7 fresh faces, none of which had ever run on the state meet ever before,
Okay.
and we got 11. So like we retool very well, and I think that's part of
Yeah.
the culture why we're always good or very good. Like we're never even average.
Sure.
So we'd have another. I think we've got another really good season coming up. We've got a great team. When you bring the rest of the state in, you bring the rest of the 2A state back in. Wow, is 2A going to be good this year? Like
Yes.
graduation hit like of the top 5 to 10 teams in 2A from last year. Graduation hit us harder than I think pretty much every other team in the top 5 or 10.
Mm,
So we should be expected to move back from third a little bit, maybe quite a bit.
yeah.
And then our retooling is going to have to move us back forward. And we absolutely have eyes on trying to get back onto the podium, which we think would be a lot more of a shock next year or this year coming up than it was last year.
Sure.
So I think we have the people who have the ability to do it. We obviously look at people in your neighborhood at Dixon and at Morton who have amazing teams coming back. And then there's always the Muhammad Seymours, or Central
Yeah.
Catholic has like a good team coming back. There's a lot out there. We're gonna have to beat 5 or 6 really good teams that I think nobody outside of Deerfield is gonna think that we have a chance of beating. And we're
Yeah.
gonna try to get a top 3 spot. So it looks really hard, but again, like we're confident in the people we bring back and we're retooling with. Getting into that, because you asked about like replacing Jamie. Of course, Jamie was our low stick. He got 9th place.
Sure.
We have Andrew Calderon, who got 30th, I believe, last year. He ran 14:57. He's a guy who ran 4:18 this year in track, but spent
Okay.
most of the track season being a team guy working in our 4x8. So a lot of his results are like not on his athletic.net page. Like
Sure.
he's a relay leg. So I appreciate the heck out of him for that. He is a team player through and through. He's going to be a captain for a second time this year. He was a junior. He was a captain last year as a junior. He's got all the tools. 14:57 coming back. He could hopefully be a low stick for us. However, the individuals in 2A this year should be the best it's ever.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we've got that. We have 2 other returners coming back, Beckett Schifrin and Ethan Reich. And then we've just got, I would tell you, we've got a 12 to 14 guys who could fill in our top 7 really, really well. So we've got a really strong squad coming back. We're crazy excited. The summer's been going well. Yeah, we're crazy.
That's
We're very
awesome.
excited for the season. And
Yeah.
we think that that nobody outside of Deerfield is going to know what's coming for them. I heard a quick stat. So I'm rambling. I'm going
No, go ahead.
I heard a quick stat that my Brainiac assistant coach gave me once. He went back and saw that out of all the preseason rankings that Mile Splits or that Mike Newman ever did or that anyone ever did, there's never been a single year where we didn't finish higher than the preseason ratings. And so he went back, decades.
Yeah.
So we're just excited to do that again.
That's awesome. And so I'm curious. So what do you as you as a coach, maybe nobody else outside of Deerfield is talking about the team and maybe not having high expectations or whatnot. So you as a coach, what do you tell your team going into the season? Like, like just, I guess, to get them riled up or, fired up or whatnot for the season.
Yeah, I don't have to do much of that. I think they're much more rah-rah people than I am. I'm crazy competitive, and they know that. High school sports is not all about winning, but the winning helps all the stuff that we're trying to get done. So like,
Right.
we are very focused on winning. But they're the ones who are really driving like this podium thing, like to win a trophy. I can tell you, like, are the odds in our favor? Probably not. But they're not going to take that. If you say that to them, they're not
Right.
going to take that. I don't really need to say anything. I'm not the most optimistic person in the world. I'm not always looking at the bright side of things. They are. They think it's theirs to lose. So I don't
Yeah.
mess with it. I just kind of let them run with it.
All right. Yeah. Hey, if you got a set of group of people who are willing to do something that maybe you're not the best at, but they're willing to do it and they're good at it, then you can let them do it. If the
Yeah.
team is doing it, then hey,
Yeah, I think
that's all. That's
there's no issues there. The confidence is not there's no confidence issue on that.
that's great. That's good to hear and everything. So, with the running, of course, we have seen some incredible times. So from your perspective, from a coach, like, uh, do you feel like this helps the high schoolers? Do you it's like, well, maybe not so much. I mean, what's your perspective on some of these just absolutely incredible times?
Yeah, I think it absolutely helps because anytime something is newsworthy, it puts cross country or track in front of them. And the
Mm,
more that cross country track can be in front of them, the more they're going to want to do well themselves. It's just like
right.
it's a continual motivator. So
Mm,
absolutely, when it's happening at the high school level, when it's happening, at the pro level with what Josh Kerr just did,
yeah.
in the mile, like that's fantastic. I know there's a lot of people, especially like older people, who want to be like, oh, but the shoes and the
Yeah.
tracks and like whatever. It's like El Garouche would have crushed Kerr if they raced head to head. Prime El Garouche.
Right.
And they might be right. Who knows? But like the fact that it's happening is compelling. And when
Yeah.
the sport is compelling, people want to be in the sport and be involved in the sport and do well in the sport.
Hmm.
So I think it's fantastic. And when it happens, within your state,
Oh yeah.
um,
It's amazing.
it's even better because you feel like you're kind of just closer to it, and so
Yes.
and it may just become that much more realistic that maybe can happen with you too.
For sure. I don't know if you've ever had any thoughts about this, as far as like any ideas or maybe thoughts that you've had swirling in your head about like how we could even elevate the sport even more. Has there been any have you ever had any thoughts like that as far as how attracting more students?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things is what you're doing. So, like, and I'm honest about it. I'm not trying to flatter you. It's like the more that running and cross country and track can become something that people outside of your team care about. Like
Hmm.
you're putting, you're doing coverage of the sport. You're interviewing people involved in the sport, especially within Illinois. You're doing this specifically within Illinois. But all the media outlets covering the sport just make it bigger than an after
Hmm.
school activity. It's like, oh my, like one of the biggest realizations I remember when I was a high school student was like, oh my God, people like know runners on other teams. Like, why? Like, that's one of the, like, and then all of a sudden, we realize like people care about it. It's a small group
Hmm.
community, obviously, but like there are people to whom, November 7th at Detweiler Park is a big day, even though they're long gone or their team may not have made it or something. Like what happens like matters to them. Debating who's going to win, like that stuff matters. It matters the way like the NBA or the NFL or MLB or whatever matters to the masses. There is that community within Illinois high school cross country and track and field. There's a bigger community within, track and field and cross country in general, and that's wonderful. It's still
Right.
tiny compared to like the NFL, but these
Right.
communities exist, and that's so powerful in bringing and elevating the quality of runners across Illinois and everywhere else. And like so, it's the internet, like, so the internet's done everything for it. I can tell you, like, I think the reason kids keep getting faster is because the internet first existed. That was a huge thing. I remember my day with DieStat being the big website or whatever. That was incredible. All of a sudden, like, we're seeing what's going on in California, and it's just like, this is so much bigger than what I see every day. And then it evolves into like these social media accounts and Instagram accounts, and like these runners are like posting things, and runners from all over are liking it, or they're messaging each other. They're getting together for runs at different places across the state, through just this incredible connection and how much it's publicized, that the sport is no longer just like you go to practice, go home, and no one asks questions. It's like you're part of something that's big and people care about. Like, what you do matters for more than just you. And I think that's elevated the sport tremendously, and continues to. And so the work you're doing with this is phenomenal. The Illinois Running News people, and they hired 2 of my runners as photographers. And I love that. Like Newman Forever did an amazing thing. Miles Split's done amazing stuff. And like, even if sometimes like people poke fun at those people for like, why do you care about high school running, or like, what are you doing still? It's like, I'm so against that, because anytime anyone wants to comment about this sport from like a fan perspective or a media perspective, that lifts it up for everybody. So
no, I mean, that's good. I would agree that if we can elevate the sport and let people know, hey, like this is not only a fun thing, it can help you physically, it can also help you mentally, it can help you learn discipline and consistency and grit and all those things that you learn from just running. It can be an amazing thing and an added value to somebody's life. I'm kind of switching gears a little bit here for just a few moments. So as far as like your philosophy of training, where do you lean? Like, because I know I've talked to some coaches don't believe in high mileage, hey, let's keep this at a minimal. Some coaches, they're not afraid to go to the high mileage, all that kind of stuff. So where do you land on that?
Yeah, we do a pretty standard training plan. I'd say most of our stuff is following like the Jack Daniels model kind of thing. We do high mileage. I'd say that our 4th year seniors are getting up to 70 miles a week, which is pretty high for a high schooler. So we do that. But what we do in terms of training is not groundbreaking. It's not anything that nobody else does. We used to do back when I was in high school, we used to do the PABO program. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but that is extremely intense. There was these PABO camps, started in Indiana. Some really successful teams, use the PABO program. Columbus North, in Indiana is a great team. Here in Illinois, Lake Zurich has kind of built some really good cross-country powerhouses off of it. But it is a really, really difficult training standard that I think worked really well for me, because it's brutal. And so people who need a lot of recovery or get injured easily, I think it is harder for them. I was very lucky that wasn't the case. So I think that's one of the secrets to my success, was I was just very durable. We kind of got away from that. We wanted to keep that mentality in. That was extremely important. But now we kind of train a typical Daniel style with tempo runs. We do VO2 max pace workouts, and then start working on our race pace as the season kind of gets further along. Nothing groundbreaking. I actually surrendered my control of the training to one of my assistant coaches, who's like way smarter than I am. It's just kind of one more thing off my plate. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not even very interested in training. To me, it's like a necessary thing I need to know something about.
Sure.
But it's not what I'm passionate about or care about so much. So our assistant coach, Bill Anderson, who's been with us, he was a runner for Deerfield 2 class of 2015, and then he came back to coach in 2020, 2021. I can't remember exactly what year. He writes our training. And so, I'd say like our training is very typical. It is high mileage, but also it's like, it's so not the secret sauce. It's just kind of like, it's the motor, but it's not what makes the car.
Right. So, Coach, one of the things that we like to do, I like to do, is to be able to give our guests an opportunity to be able to share something challenging or encouraging to our listeners, and about running,
Yeah.
and how that ties into life. Whatever is at the top of mind for you. So, is there anything that you'd like to share that would be challenging, encouraging, that kind of thing to our listeners?
Yeah. So I would say it's kind of like if there's one takeaway I hope that runners who come through Deerfield take away. It's the mental toughness aspect of the sport that applies so well later to life. We call it toughness translates. It's like you've got one brain and you can't pick and choose. You can't turn it on and off like in practice versus out of practice. Like you're going to carry that brain with you everywhere you go. So it's like you can't be a tough runner and then be like a weak person outside. Like the weakness is going to seep into your running career. And we hope it's the opposite, that like you get really tough through running and it seeps into the rest of your life. Because you're always building a habit in everything you do, right? So every decision you make, you're either like building mental toughness or building a habit of weakness. And like it's almost like a tug of war game. And if you can compile all these decisions that lead towards mental toughness, like you become a really mentally tough person throughout life. And running is like the greatest platform for that. So like something that I like to, I give a whole talk about this once a year at practice, but just like an example of like something you can do that's not running related, but totally is running related indirectly is like when your alarm gets up in the morning, wake up. Like don't push snooze. It's like the voice in your head that tells you I want to stay in my cozy, comfy bed. That's weakness. That's mental weakness. That's giving into temptation, right? Your temptation is to want to stay in bed, go back to sleep, be warm and cozy. Your temptation in the third mile of a cross country race is to slow down or stop. Like, I think we all feel that, right? Like everyone battles that demon in their head. And it's kind of the same demon with the alarm, right? It's like, am I going to choose the comfortable route, or am I going to do what I know I need to do? Am I going to do what I know is right? Am I going to do what I know is going to help me accomplish my goals? That's get up, and that's push it harder into the finish. And so those two things, like you're training your brain the same way for both. And I don't think you can be like a weak person with the alarm clock and then a strong person in racing, and vice versa. So essentially the message I hope to get across when I coach athletes or anyone who goes through any sort of cross-country program is that mental toughness you build up with really hard workouts, with long runs that are just draining, in the summer heat, with races that are brutal and you got to be up with this guy, but you feel like you can't just like stay there for another minute. Those kinds of moments serve you in life. They make you like a low maintenance person in life. Things just like when you learn to be able to deal with the discomfort, like discomfort just doesn't rule your life the way I think it does for like the general population. Things just like don't seem to, like regular random things in life, a flight delay, or like it being too hot or too cold or too rainy for whatever activity you're about to do. Like I find all the runners I've met in my life deal with that, and it just like doesn't bring them down as much as it does for the general public. And so it's just this mental toughness of being able to deal with discomfort that running gives to runners, or training, competitive running gives to runners, that I think is more valuable than anything. And it's essentially why I'd encourage every kid to get into running.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Coach, for sharing that. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking some time and coming on. I really do hope that we can have you on again in the future. I would certainly enjoy that and everything. And so, again, thank you so much. Hey, everybody, thank you for taking time and listening today. We had a great conversation with Coach. I hope that it adds value to your life and adds value to your journey in running and everything. And so just want to remind you, you can find us on the socials, and then also you can follow us there on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're listening. You can just hit that follow button. So thank you so much. Have a great week. And remember, when you're out there running or giving your best in whatever part of life you're in, remember, I hope you hear my voice and you hear me saying Andale, meaning let's go. We got this. So, hey, everybody, we'll talk to you next week.